Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Had Powers of Subaru from Re:0 Part 1. Before we start, please go support the Thewitchcult for writing that awesome fanfic. Issei Hyoudo, after being killed by his girlfriend Yuuma, discovers that he has gone back in time a week before meeting her. With this second chance, he will avoid making the same mistake at all costs. But soon he will discover that it is difficult to escape from the increasingly familiar death. Prologue: Death. Would you die for me? Hearing those words like a curse, the boy gritted his teeth, knowing what would happen. Death would fall upon him again. If he had known what fate had in store for him when he went out on a date with this girl, would anything have changed? Of course not. If he had refused to go out with her from the beginning, would it have changed his inevitable death on the sixth day? Obviously not. If he had hidden in his room to avoid dying, would anything have changed? Of course not. If he had tried to escape the city, would it have delayed his death even a little? No. If the girl had had an accident on the date, would it have changed anything? Absolutely not. If he had tried to stab her when she was distracted picking up her phone from the ground, would he have avoided this fate? Clearly not. If she had been poisoned during the date, would her fate of being stabbed to death have changed? Apparently not. That method didn't work either. But why did he have to die again? For what reason? Why should he go through that pain again? Was God testing him? Or was it God who forgot him in this horrible place without an exit? A spear pierced his body. His hitherto healthy torso was reduced to a hole with nothing inside. His blood was flowing out of his body like a river, filling the park floor with a pool of blood. Burning, 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 pain, 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 pain. It hurts, 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 it hurts. An unbearable pain. The boy couldn't breathe properly. His mind was blank. He could only feel the arm of death touching him again. Now that he thought about it, how many times had they already stabbed him with a spear? He didn't remember. His mind was already failing due to blood loss. Even so, despite having gone through this pain dozens of times, he still couldn't get used to it. Who could get used to having their organs pierced with a spear? Anyway, nothing matters anymore because he doesn't have time left. His life was overflowing, and he could only whisper one last thought to the person who killed him. I promise you, next time I'll kill you. And so that day, Issei Hyoudo's life came to an end. Chapter 1, starting from the beginning. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, I could feel all my senses returning to my body again. Ring, 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 if you don't wake up I'll kill you. Ring, 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 if you don't wake up I'll. Slowly he turned off the alarm that was next to his bed. Getting up, he quickly began to inspect his body and surroundings. Immediately touching his torso with his hand, he felt relieved to see that his organs were in place. He lay back heavily on the bed. So I'm back, huh? After saying those words he looked at the date, exactly 1 week before his death. It was undoubtedly creepy. It didn't feel real. Going back in time? A woman with black wings and a magic spear? It sounds like a silly TV show. But it was real. The pain of death was embedded in his soul, letting him know it was real. In the past he had thought that having the power to stop time, or go back in time, would undoubtedly be the best thing ever. He could take advantage of girls without consequences. But now, experiencing that power firsthand, he understood how disgusting that power was. And the worst part of all, the method to make that power work was undoubtedly anyway that wasn't important now. Yuuma, that damn woman killed me at the same time. She said the same words to me. She even pierced my abdomen in the same way. Does she have some fetish for piercing abdomens with magical light spears? While he said those words with mockery and contempt, he sat on the bed, inspected his room. Nothing had changed. Everything remained the same. It was as if nothing had happened in the last year, as if the only one who had changed was him. Knock, 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 knock. Issei, it's time to get up. It's time to go to the academy. You'll be late if you keep sleeping. With his gaze lost in the ceiling, a voice was heard on the other side of the door. Upon hearing it, he immediately replied, I know, Mom, in a second. I'll be out in a minute. Are you okay? You sound a bit sick. If you're feeling bad, you can miss today. Don't worry, it's nothing. I'll be out in a moment. As he replied, he got up and immediately went to the bathroom. When he opened the door and entered the bathroom and looked at himself in the mirror, as he looked at his reflection, an attempt at a smile appeared on his tired face and his dead eyes. TCH, damn fool. If you can't at least pretend that you're okay in front of your parents, you should just die. He said those words of contempt to himself as he looked in the mirror. Then he started to splash water on his face. If he showed such an unpleasant expression to the people around him, they would distrust him. After all, he wouldn't trust someone with a look like a lunatic either. As he put on a fake smile again, he went to get ready to start a new and long week. After saying goodbye to his parents, who luckily didn't notice anything strange, he slowly headed to Ko Academy. As he walked, he noticed that everything remained the same. Everything followed the same pattern as last time. When he arrived at his classroom, his two best friends Matsuda and Motohama started talking to him, thus reuniting the well-known group of perverts from Ko Academy. Hey Issei, Motohama got the latest from Momo-chan. Came in Rider Pinky. It's super exclusive. We thought about watching it at his house after school. You're coming with us, right? After declaring that they would watch an adult DVD out loud in the middle of the class, the murmurs of the people began to arise. Did you hear that? Yes, disgusting. Why do we have to spend a whole year in the same class as the perverted trio? It's incredible that they haven't been expelled yet. Disgusting. As Issei looked uninterested out the window, he said something unexpected to his friends. I'm sorry, I have something to do after school, next time will be. His friends were shocked to hear what their best friend told them. What can be so important dash? No wait Issei, don't tell me that. As Motohama looked at him in shock, Matsuda continued with the question. Issei you bastard, don't tell me that you have gotten a G-girlfriend. As his two friends looked at him with shocked faces, waiting for an answer just like several of his classmates, he only responded in a low voice. Don't worry, it's nothing like that. I just have to take care of an errand for my mother after school. His friends were relieved to hear that. Certainly, it's impossible for you to get a girlfriend before us, we'll let it pass this time. By the way, we'll have a secret meeting at recess. As Matsuda recovered, he said that the three would have a meeting about a secret hole they found in the girls' locker room. Sure, although I have something to do in the library first, I'll meet up with you guys after I finish. While showing a smile, he responded affirmatively to Matsuda, thus classes began. For Issei, all this conversation, all the content of the class, every expression of his classmates, he had seen it all many times before. Everyone said exactly what Issei remembered they would say, they reacted in the same way he remembered. It's as if he was watching a first-person movie, certainly terrifying. After the bell rang, he headed towards the library. He had to check something before starting this week correctly. Hiya. With a big sigh, he looked at the ceiling of the library with a tired look. Certainly, I managed to synthesize cyanide correctly. Even though he ingested a large amount, nothing happened to him at all. Although it was predictable, using normal methods to kill a supernatural monster is inefficient, although I currently have no other more effective methods. As he closed the book, he leaned back in his chair looking at the ceiling. He still didn't know how to get out of this death loop. He had tried different ways to finish her off, tried to poison her drink, tried to stab her, pushed her in front of a car, exposed her in front of many people, even got a firearm and still failed at everything. In the end he ended up dying in every attempt anyway. Is this my death number 88, isn't it? Sighing with fatigue, he looked at a new book that was on his table. A woman with great appeal, fully functional black wings protruding from her back, certainly. A fallen angel, I never thought something like that existed in real life. If they had told me before entering this loop, I would have discarded it as a fantasy. Although no book says anything about their weaknesses. Is it something they hid from the world? Holding a book about legends and religion, he was reading the section on types of angels. She's behind me. Why? She's killing me for no apparent reason. What did I do to that wretch to take my life dozens of times without provocation on my part? There's no reason to go to those extremes. Certainly that's what he thought. But he couldn't forget the words she always repeated to him when she killed him in each loop. Sacred gear. As he whispered that word, he closed his eyes. According to the information she provided him with, it was something like a power given to certain humans. If it was true, it could explain his power to restart time every time he dies. But even so, making me taste death dozens of times because I'm a supposed danger to your people is really a ridiculous excuse. I would even accept the excuse that you killed me for looking at your breasts throughout the date. As he got up from his chair, he started walking out of the library towards the place agreed with his friends. Chapter 2: Contact. While leaving the library, Issei noticed something unusual. Whenever he entered and exited the library during the first day's break, everything followed a pattern. Everything followed rules that wouldn't change without his intervention. But now there was an anomaly that blocked his way out of the library. "Do you have a moment, Hyoudo-kun?" Upon hearing those words, he quickly stepped back a bit. Something that had never happened before was happening in front of him. Something that had never happened in his previous loops was now holding him back at the library exit. "Student Council President, sorry, I don't remember your name." He certainly wasn't lying. It had been more than a year since the start of this loop. Most of the time he was devising ways to survive. He had no other thought than not to die at the hands of that psychopath. It was a basic human instinct. The thought of not feeling that pain again flooded him every time he opened his eyes in the morning and every time he closed his eyes at night. Under such circumstances, he had unconsciously discarded some basic memories of his student life. "Shitorai sauna, Hyoudo-kun, pretending not to know my name even though you do. Do you think that will make you more popular with girls? You'll only drive them away more if you keep up with those kinds of acts." As she adjusted her glasses, she began to look Issei up and down. "I've heard some noisy rumors. They say you've been acting unusual since this morning. Are you okay?" Strange, this was certainly strange. In the last 10 loops, he had made exactly the same journey, had acted exactly the same, and yet this unusual encounter had occurred. Something had started to move without him knowing. "I'm fine, I just didn't sleep well last night, that's all. Did you come all the way here because you were worried?" The reason, he needed to know the reason why the course was deviating in this loop. Something might be moving without him knowing, that might change the course of this dead-end loop. "It's my duty as student council president to see if one of the most troublesome boys has finally reformed, although you seem to be acting normally." Saying that, she kept walking, passing by his side. Although she suddenly stopped as if she remembered something. Issei still hadn't moved. He was standing in the same place with visible nervousness. "By the way, Hyoudo-kun, try to sleep more, that look you have is very creepy." She said that as she continued on her way, disappearing into the library. Issei didn't move. 10, 15, 30 seconds and he still didn't move because of something he felt. Yes, that something was fear. When he spoke to her, no, before that, when he saw her in front of him, what he felt was a fear from the bottom of his being. Was it his survival instinct? After facing that fallen angel dozens of times, his danger sensors had sharpened quite a bit. But why did they sound so loud when facing the student council president? Damn it, have I gone crazy? Being in front of her felt like being in front of a natural enemy. After so many deaths at the hands of a girl, had he developed an instinctive rejection of women? Damn it! As he continued on his way, his hand was still shaking. To think that he, who had previously aimed to become the harem king, would be afraid and reject women, it was laughable. Yet, this hasn't happened to me before. Even when I pretend to have a date with that psychopath, I never felt so nervous. Is it because I'm used to being around her or because I simply see her as an enemy and not as a woman? As he continued walking down the hallway, he kept thinking about what had happened before. This sudden change of events, that fear he felt when exchanging a few words with the president, something felt wrong. What caused this change? I acted exactly like the last 10 times. Should I go back and ask her if she was really just worried about me? As he said that, he started to look back. After thinking about it for a bit, he discarded the idea. He would look stupid if he suddenly interrogated the president about something so insignificant. Although now that he thought about it, wouldn't everything reset when he died this weekend? What did it matter if he acted like a man if in the end no one would remember anything? No. Thinking like that wasn't healthy. He must act in each loop as if it were the last to stay sane. If he loses his mind, he won't be able to get out of this hell even if he tries 1,000,000 times. Although of course, he now had no idea what caused this change, so the best thing would be to wait and see if there is any chain reaction that benefits him in some way. Perhaps delaying his death, something he would value in these desperate circumstances. After walking a bit, he ran into his friends. "Issei, you bastard, more than half of the break has already passed. What took you so long? You know what, never mind, we don't have much time, let's hurry." As Matsuda said that, they headed towards the women's locker room. "Damn it, let me see, bastard! Move aside. Shut up, they'll hear you." While his two friends tried to look through a small hole in the women's locker room, Issei just looked at the sky and asked them both a question. "Now that I think about it, why do you always invite me if in the end you want to selfishly occupy the hole for yourselves?" After asking them that question, the boys didn't answer and kept fighting to look through the hole. As he sighed, he started looking at his two friends. Although they were certainly fools and perverts without a shred of shame, they were very kind people. Although of course, in about 10 seconds they would betray him after being discovered. Is there someone there?" Kaiouya. While his friends ran away after being discovered leaving him behind, Issei just stood still with a lost look towards where his friends were previously. "You again?" As some girls with wooden swords approached him, Issei turned to look at them. "Could you go a little softer this time?" As he whispered that to them with a tired voice, the girls got even angrier. "You still have the nerve to act like this, pervert! What bad luck, Issei!" As the three of them were squatting and hiding, his friends gave him that strange apology. "You guys will never change, you're still bastards." As he said that, he touched his injured cheek. After sneaking away from the girls' punishment, he met up with his friends who were hiding next to an old building. As they were talking, Issei looked up. As he did so, he noticed a girl with blood-red hair looking at them for a few seconds, more precisely looking at him. As their eyes met, the girl turned around to disappear from sight. "The old school building, I didn't know you could go in there." As Matsuda said that, they stared at the window for a few seconds. "Red hair, it's certainly an unusual color now that I think about it." As Issei said that, the boys looked at him with a smile. "Yes, she is Rias Gremry. 99-58-90. Third year, president of the Occult Studies Club, it's rumored that she's foreign." As his two friends talked about her, Issei kept looking at the window. "Occult Studies Club, huh? If I'm not mistaken, the most popular boy in the academy is in that club. What was his name?" "Kibayuto. That bastard, don't mention him again. He ruins the mood, idiot." As Motohama clenched his fist at the mention of that stupid pretty boy, Issei stood up. That club seems like a cover for spoiled kids to socialize. Come on guys, recess will be over soon." After sighing and saying that, Issei told his friends to go back to class. So walking back to his classroom, although Issei stopped for a second. "Although I've seen her several times, she's still very attractive. Although her air is similar to Sauna-senpai's, my instincts tell me not to approach her. Could it be that my fear is towards attractive girls? Damn it!" As he whispered that useless thought, he resumed his way to his classroom. After class, he said goodbye to his friends and started walking home. The sun was setting, but it was still a bit early for the encounter. As he stopped in front of a bridge, he took out a notebook and a pencil and lay down on the bridge on his back. To anyone who looked at what he was writing, they would see simple scribbles. But for Issei, those scribbles were his action plan for this week. After all, she would be here soon. Alright, perfect. After finishing writing, he tore off the page and crumpled it before throwing it in a trash can. As he was about to finish crossing the bridge, a voice stopped him. Excuse me, are you Issei Hyoudo from Ko Academy?" Upon hearing that voice, Issei immediately turned around. He could see a girl with black hair in a uniform from an academy he didn't recognize. "Yes, why?" Upon affirmatively responding, the girl looked more nervous. Hyoudo-kun, are you dating someone? Upon hearing that phrase, Issei could only scoff mentally. If he told her yes, she would ask to be his friend and he would end up dying on Sunday. If he told her no, she would ask to be his girlfriend. If he refused, he would die over the weekend, and if he accepted, he would die anyway. It's a dead end, so he would answer. No, not currently. It wouldn't change anything anyway. Phew, that's good. Would you go out with me? I always see you pass by this bridge, so I fell in love with you. So what do you think? The best course of action, the best decision to that question had already been made the first day he met her. He had to keep her close, had to watch her movements, had to see how she acted. By all means he had to find an opening. So. Excuse me, but you haven't told me your name yet. As he spoke slowly, he asked that question. That's right. My name is Yuuma Amano. Saying her name shyly, the girl responded. Every expression she made, every word she pronounced, even her tone of voice, everything repulsed Issei. Yuuma? Sure, I'll go out with you, Yuuma-chan. Speaking slowly with an insincere smile and a playful tone, Issei responded. This would be the start of week number 88. Although he was optimistic about this attempt because a small change had occurred. If that change meant nothing, then he would keep trying until he finished off this girl in front of him. That's okay. I'll be in your care, Issei-kun. With a radiant smile, the girl responded, relieved. Chapter 3, Yuuma Amano. The mission they ordered was simple, to watch over Issei Hyoudo. Although this type of work was normally assigned to low-ranking fallen angels, it was annoying and boring to have to take care of it anyway. So he decided to have a little fun and act on his own. Excuse me, are you Issei Hyoudo from Ko Academy? Feigning visible shyness, he asked his target that question. Yes, why? With unnatural confidence and a suspicious look, Reincarnation hesitated a bit. According to the information given about his target, he was an ordinary high school boy ignorant of the existence of a world beyond his own. It was impossible for him to suspect anything. Hyoudo-kun, are you dating anyone? With a fake nervous smile and pleading eyes, she asked him that question. Looking at him closely, for some reason she felt that he wasn't surprised by that question. It was strange. He was supposed to be an outcast at his academy, not popular with women. This question should have surprised him enormously coming from a girl as attractive as her. But he reacted as if he had been asked this question dozens of times before. No, not currently. Hearing that somewhat gruff affirmation, she feigned happiness. Although she already knew his circumstances. Phew, that's good. Would you go out with me? I always see you crossing this bridge, so I fell in love with you. So what do you think? She said that with feigned blushing and shyness. It wasn't unusual for her to use these kinds of deceptions and lies. You could say it was her way of life. Lying, deceiving, and in the end killing was something she loved. In the end, she couldn't resist acting when she was assigned to watch over this naive boy. Wanting to see his last moments of life, seeing his eyes of resignation as he is drowning in his own blood, was something that gave her satisfaction. Although, of course, that wasn't the only reason behind wanting to kill him. You haven't told me your name yet. Oh, something so basic had slipped her mind. Lost in her thoughts, she forgot something as simple as introducing herself. That's right, Yuuma Amano. With real nervousness, she introduced herself in a somewhat pathetic way. Although considering the circumstances, maybe it could seem cute to introduce herself late. Although it was still pathetic. Yuuma? Sure, I'll go out with you, Yuuma-chan. Hearing those words of affirmation, she felt there was a hint of mockery in them. Noticing it for some reason gave her a chill. It wasn't just because of that, the way he said it, his smile, the way he looked at her were not natural. That's fine, I'll take care of you, Issei-kun. She responded a bit late and nervously. A superior being like her, feeling something as unnatural as chills from a human, was undoubtedly pathetic. Maybe he was some kind of freak after all. She had heard that he was a perverted beast, maybe that had something to do with it. But it didn't matter, he was a normal human after all. He would be her toy to shake off the boredom of this long week, so she would be more relaxed when Asia arrived. Anyway, the first step is done. Walking alongside him, they were heading towards Ko Academy. Although she had the excuse of walking together since their academies were supposedly close, she really only did it to observe his reaction. Although there was none, just a small smile that seemed unnatural on his face. She hesitated a bit when she saw it. What is he thinking? Although she knew he was a human, when she looked into his eyes, she couldn't understand at all what he was thinking inside. As they continued walking, she noticed two boys. When they saw them, they stood still, as if time had stopped for them. According to her research, they were Issei's best friends. What is this? This can't be possible! While the two boys screamed in shock, she glanced at Issei. A smile appeared on his face, although this time she noticed something. That smile was undoubtedly the most authentic so far. It was really repulsive. Good morning, guys, this is Amano Yuuma. As he introduced her, she bowed slightly. They are my classmates, Matsuda and Motohama. As he introduced them, she faked a smile at them. Nice to meet you. As they passed by them who were still motionless, Issei touched the shoulder of the one who had no hair, and she could hear him whisper. And she is my adorable and cute girlfriend, see you later. After saying that, they continued their way to the academy. Looking back, she could hear the two boys shout something. Damn it! In the end you were right! You had a girlfriend. You were going to meet her yesterday. Damn liar! We won't forgive this betrayal. Remember that, Issei! As they shouted that, they kept walking. Upon arriving at the academy, they separated, agreeing to walk home after class. At the end of the day, they met to walk home. It seemed that he was a good talker. Although he had a lost look at times, they never ran out of topics to talk about. Now that she thought about it, was he the same boy who was said to be a perverted beast at his academy? She never saw him look at her lasciviously. Even when she intentionally showed him her cleavage, he just ignored her and kept talking. For a 17-year-old boy, this kind of stimulus should be enough to make him tremble. But she never noticed him nervous. Did he not think she was attractive? If that were true, it would definitely destroy her pride and she would end up killing him even before she had planned. But luckily, she noticed on the way that he occasionally looked at her chest in a disguised way. A date? As she proposed a date, she noticed a slight glint of expectation in his eyes. Certainly, in the end he was a high school student. A date with someone like her would excite anyone. Yes, this Sunday, don't you want to? Speaking in a sad tone, she looked at him with pleading eyes. Sure, why not? I think it will be very fun. As he spoke with a smile, his tone of voice was not very enthusiastic but somewhat playful. What the hell was wrong with him? Did he think that going on a date with her was boring? Shaking her head, she ignored that. In the end, she would end up killing him that day, no matter what he thought. This was something she did out of whim. With that in mind, she started thinking about what outfit she would wear for that day. The day of the date arrived. She noticed a boy dressed in jeans and a white shirt. Although she tried to deny it, he had a certain charm. Issei-kun. When she spoke to him, he turned around. This time she noticed something strange, his gaze. His gaze shone like never before. It was as if he was another person. This took her by surprise. Yuuma-chan, good morning. He spoke to her with a genuine smile when he saw her. In the end, she understood. He was a normal boy after all. That look of expectation, that naive smile. In the end, it was her imagination after all. I'm sorry, did you wait long? While she falsely apologized, she bowed her head slightly. Don't worry, Yuuma-chan, I didn't wait long. She knew that was a clear lie. He had been there at least 2 hours before the agreed time. It seemed excessive to her, but looking at him closely she understood. He was blushing. Then she understood that during this week he had been holding back. He had been looking forward to this date since she proposed it. Although he pretended to be uninterested, he was eagerly waiting for her. He was certainly still a naive child. She found this undoubtedly adorable. So the date began. In the end they went through several stores, several restaurants, and talked about various topics. This date was well planned. The effort the boy put into this date was noticeable. As they were walking, she accidentally bumped into someone and her phone fell to the ground. "Here you go, Yuuma-chan. It seems nothing happened to it." While the boy returned the phone to her with a smile, she also smiled. In the end, they stopped at a drink shop. While he talked about his student life, she noticed that occasionally he looked at her drink. Or was it at her breasts? She ignored that look and they continued talking. The sun was setting. The day was almost over and with it the date. She really had fun. She could count on one hand the times she had fun with things that didn't involve violence. Now the day was ending and with it the life of the boy who was with her should also end. She wondered what expression he would have after being pierced by a spear of light. She started to get excited imagining it. She couldn't wait to see it anymore. They arrived at a fountain. "Today was a very fun day." As she said that, they were getting closer and closer to the fountain. The final moment was approaching. "Yes, it was. I had a lot of fun. The date went exactly as I planned." As the boy said that, a smile appeared on his face along with a noticeable blush on his cheeks. Suddenly, he took her hand. Seriously? Was he so blushed just by holding her hand? They continued walking hand in hand until they reached the fountain. It was time to end this farce. She suddenly let go of his hand and turned her back on him. "Hey Issei-kun, to celebrate our first date, would you do me a favor?" Slowly approaching him, she whispered that in his ear. She couldn't see his expression very well but noticed a small smile on his face. He moved away from her a bit, although she let him pass by. Big mistake. In 1 second he positioned himself behind her, and in a blink, she felt something hot in her chest. When she incredulously looked down, what she felt was fear. Immediately turned around, tried to back away with all her strength, but it was no use, collapsed on the floor. Almost immediately her chest was bleeding. There was too much blood, so much that she thought if all of it really belonged to her, still didn't understand what happened. When she turned her back on the boy, something pierced through her, and immediately collapsed as if someone had cut off her strings. Needed to find out what happened. Immediately looked up, and there he was. The boy was looking at her, had blood on his face and hair. While she lay dying on the ground, he formed a smile while wiping blood from his cheek, then noticed a light sword? A light sword, a weapon designed to harm supernatural beings. Although it was extremely effective against demons, it was also effective against other species. If used with precision, a thrust was enough to end the life of even a fallen angel. For example, a thrust to the heart. Why? Why did he attack her? Why does he have a light sword? Will she die? Is she going to die? She will die, she will die, she will die, she will die, she will die. As she looked at him in disbelief, she spoke to him. "And no, I don't want to die. Why are you doing this to me? The sword, are you from the church?" As she felt the blood rising in her throat, she asked him that. She was about to die. That thrust had shattered her heart. She could no longer breathe properly. Her thinking was stopping. "Come to think of it, in this loop you haven't done anything to me that deserves me killing you like this." The boy spoke distractedly as he wiped the blood from his cheek. "You could say I'm fulfilling a promise. In the world before this one, even in the world before that one, I repeated it dozens of times. I promised you that I would kill you, didn't I? Yuuma-chan." With a smile, he responded that nonsense. She didn't understand anything. Her life was ending. Ignoring everything, she thought. She had to think of something or she would die. "By the way, you're wrong about the sword. The white-haired father lent it to me. Amazing, isn't it? To think that such a weapon really exists." Freed cells and betrayed her? That son of a hitch. Trusting that bastard was a mistake. Was this boy his accomplice? But when did he do it? When did he ally with him? No, none of that mattered anymore because she. "Come to think of it, Yuuma-chan, what's your real name?" As Issei continued talking, that question came up. After so many deaths, he knew that wasn't her real name. "I always thought your name was cute. But I'm sure that's not your real name." As he continued talking, he deactivated the light sword and put it away. "Will you answer me?" You know what? It doesn't matter. After all, you're already dead." Chapter 4 Tomorrow. It was dark, the night had fallen, there was no one around the park, the only person there was a boy with a smile on his face as he looked at the corpse of a woman. Ha, finally this is over. As he let out a heavy sigh and small tears gathered in the corners of his eyes, he looked at the watch on his wrist. It was past 7, several minutes had passed since he should have died, but he still hadn't. Then he looked at the girl who was in a pool of blood. After 88 times, he finally achieved what he wanted so much, to get out of this circle of death, although. Should I go and thank him? I really don't want to meet that lunatic again. As he wiped away his tears, he thought about the person who helped him, no, the one who gave him the tool to survive in this place. A lunatic he found while walking through the park. He approached him when he noticed that he was one of the many anomalies he found during the week, so in the end his reasoning was right. There was a chain reaction, although I expected something positive. I never imagined achieving this. After thinking about it for a while, he postponed it for later. Visiting that madman was not his current priority. He had to do something with this girl's body. Although if he had to highlight something about that guy, it was his look. It was the look of someone who has completely lost his mind. If I looked at myself in a mirror, I think I would have a similar look. After whispering that, he began to question his current goals. He had already achieved his biggest goal in life, surviving this loop. Now that he had achieved it, he was left without goals or objectives. What should he do now? Should he continue with his life before entering this loop? Should he resume his goal of becoming the harem king? When he thought about it, he looked at the girl on the ground, more precisely at the pool of blood that reflected his own face. Red. It was a deeply red color. A color so beautiful that it reminded him of that girl. Gremory-san, now that I'm done with this, should I try talking to her? Maybe I can find out what that feeling is when I look at her. As he thought about the red-haired girl, he noticed a red light behind him that began to illuminate the entire park. That made him feel his whole body tremble. He knew what that feeling was, so he whispered, "Reinforcements?" When he said that, without turning around and simply looking up at the moon. Why hadn't he noticed before? That tonight's moon was very beautiful. Reinforcements. If they were Yuma's reinforcements, he wouldn't stand a chance. The only reason why he could kill her is because she let her guard down. If she had been more cautious, he wouldn't have had any chance to kill her. He will die, there's no doubt about it. He wondered how many times would have to try to get back to this point again. He's still surprised that he convinced that madman to give him the light sword on his first try. If he died now, how many times would have to die before convincing him? No, he won't die. He won't waste this opportunity. He started turning around to look at his new objectives to overcome. Red. The only thing he saw when turning around was a red-haired girl. Beneath her was a red circle illuminating the park. When their eyes met, he immediately knew who she was. Rias-senpai, I see now, I understand. So he finally figured it out. She was also a supernatural being. The reason why his danger radar always rang when he saw her through the club window was because he recognized her as a potential danger to his life. Next to her, a girl with black hair tied in a ponytail positioned herself. Somehow she seemed familiar. Was she someone from the academy? He didn't remember. Two enemies, both had a creepy aura. He won't win. He will undoubtedly die at the hands of these girls, although he was sure that next time. So it's you who called me. Hearing those words, he was taken aback. Did he call her? When he was thinking about her somehow, did he bring her here? Maybe that information will help him in his next attempt, although right now it won't make any difference. Although he doesn't plan to die without resistance like in previous attempts, he will resist at all costs to leave this successful loop. He began to walk towards them. He had the light sword hidden. If he took it in about 5 seconds, he could cause them some damage. As he was about to take the weapon, suddenly he tripped. Pathetically lost his balance. What caused it? Did they have the power to make people trip? Now that he thought about it, that would be a pretty useful power. His knowledge was slowly fading away. Really, dealing with supernatural things was undoubtedly a headache, he thought to himself. As his consciousness disappeared, he felt someone catch him before he hit the ground. Is this the end? Without fighting? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. He would do better. Now he had a way to hurt them. He could get back to this point again with enough attempts. If he got rid of them first and then Yuuma, he can do it. Without a doubt. Next time. I will do it, he wanted to say. But he couldn't finish the sentence because his consciousness disappeared. Next time? He has no visible injuries. He fainted from exhaustion. While Akeno had a confused face, she started to inspect Issei. I see, Akeno, are you sure about the barrier? As Rias approached Akeno, who had stepped forward to prevent the boy from falling to the ground, she said those words. Yes, it disappeared as soon as it was activated. The fallen angel died seconds after activating the barrier. After hearing that, Rias narrowed her eyes. They had ordered to watch this boy. It was suspected that he had a sacred gear. That's why the fallen angel's faction was after him. When she was called through a magic circle that she gave to the boy with her familiar, she immediately knew that something had happened. She thought about the worst scenario, but this was undoubtedly something she did not expect. He killed her in a few seconds, it's not impossible. But he's a human, even for a low-ranking demon, killing a fallen angel is a challenge. As she said that, Rias approached the corpse of the fallen angel. She had a wound in her chest. She couldn't distinguish what weapon it was made with since there was blood all over her chest, although the origin of the blood was her heart. If he had knowledge of his sacred gear for a long time and was at least decent, it wouldn't be strange that he could kill a low-ranking fallen angel being human. Akeno, after saying that, laid Issei on her lap. Although he fainted after using it, he still doesn't master it well. If he saw through the facade of that fallen angel, killing her when she turned her back wouldn't be a difficult task. As she sighed, Rias said that. She left aside the fallen angel and started looking at Issei. Without a doubt, it's an impressive achievement. Well, Akeno, I'll take him home. Get rid of the body of the fallen angel. President, will you turn him into your servant? Now is a great opportunity. He has a lot of potential. Not yet. If he were in worse conditions, I would do it. He already knows about the supernatural world, or at least about the existence of fallen angels. We just have to convince him to be on our side voluntarily. Understood. Do you want me to inspect the fallen angel? Maybe I can guess how he killed her, and in that way know more about his sacred gear. Yes, please. After saying that, she looked at Issei, who was with his eyes closed with slight dark circles under his eyes. Issei, I will turn you into my servant. That dream again. Again that stupid dream. Sacred gear? Black wings? Why does my stomach have a hole? Blame God? What are you saying, stupid? You are the one who is killing me, not him. I won't go through that pain again. I will avoid it. When I wake up from this stupid dream, I swear. Ring, 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 Oni-chan, if you don't wake up I'll kiss you. Ring, 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 Oni-chan, if you don't wake up, and dash. Turning off the alarm, he got up immediately. He looked around and automatically inspected his body. He didn't have a hole in his stomach. Everything was still in place. Ha, I'm back. After all, I didn't manage to get out of this loop, although now I have a broader view of the matter. While sighing, he went back to bed. The reason why he died: in the academy there were supernatural beings who could inform Yuuma about his power, or as they call it, sacred gear. Rias Senpai and Sauna Senpai, the two were probably also fallen angels pretending to be high school students to hunt him down. There was also the girl with the ponytail who was with Rias. Was she part of the occult club? If that was the case, he could assume that everyone in the club were also fallen angels. Extrapolating a bit, everyone in the student council could be fallen angels too. Damn it, I had trouble with just one, but now I have to deal with several at once? Shit, it got more complicated in the end. After saying that, he sat on the bed. Although it was somewhat pathetic, he was optimistic. Until recently he thought that fallen angels were invincible. But apparently there were weapons capable of killing them. Although to get it in this attempt he must find that man. Will he be in the church? Last time he found him by chance in a park. But he doesn't think he will have the same luck in this loop. He must look for him himself this time. While thinking with a lost look on the ceiling, he noticed something strange. A moment ago, after inspecting his stomach, didn't he have the same shirt as on the date? He grabbed his head that was spinning around him, slowly lowered his gaze. He was dressed just like yesterday. He slowly put his hand in his trouser pocket. There it was. The light sword with which he killed Yuuma in the previous loop. Didn't I die? He didn't understand. It was supposed that Yuma's reinforcements arrived and killed him. So when he fainted, was it because of mental strain? If he was so defenseless, why didn't they kill him? He didn't understand. At that moment he heard some people laughing in the living room. Issei hurriedly put away the light sword under his bed and left his room. Something about this was wrong. Had he managed to get out of the loop? But he was supposed to have died yesterday. He needed to know what was happening. There she saw him when she arrived at the origin of the voices. The attention of the two people in the room focused on him. Hello, Hyoudo-kun. Did you sleep well? As she gently lifted a cup of tea, she spoke to him calmly. You! What are you doing here? While looking perplexed, she could only say that it was stupid to leave the light sword behind. Now both her parents and her were in danger. Hey Issei. What are those manners of greeting? After putting Miss Sauna through so much trouble, you still have the nerve to treat her like that. Miss, please excuse him. While his father forced him to bow with his hand, he still didn't understand anything. What on earth was going on here? Oh, don't worry about it. It's normal for him to be surprised. While not understanding what was going on, his father laughed nervously. His mother wasn't in sight. Did she go out? Right now, that wasn't important. He had to get her away from his father. After getting out of his father's grip, he took her by the hand abruptly, although she didn't resist. Hey Issei, what are you doing? That's disrespectful. While his father watched his actions, tried to stop him but ignored him, took her by the hand roughly into his room after entering, threw her on his bed and locked the door. Well, you haven't changed anything. You look at a girl and first thing you think is about sleeping with her. Suits you well, nicknamed perverted beast. Stop playing with me. Now tell me, what are you doing in my house? Of course, if you can tell, oh great fallen angel. While Issei crossed his arms, with a sharp look he let out that accusation. Chapter 5, Marked Differences. With his arms crossed and a penetrating gaze, Issei looked at the student council president. Although he appeared to be normal, he was actually very nervous. He had acted impulsively before, taking her hand almost instinctively and throwing her onto the bed where the light sword was. He was stupid to act like that. Now if he wanted to defend himself, he couldn't. If he died now, it would undoubtedly be his most stupid death. She had a surprised look on her face when she heard that accusation, although she immediately recovered. Hyoudo-kun, I think you're a bit confused. I'm not a fallen angel. They could no longer deceive him. Even now his instincts tell him to get away from her as soon as possible. If she wasn't a fallen angel, what were she and Rias-senpai? If he tried to approach her to retrieve the light sword, he would die. The only thing left for him was dialogue. Do you deny it? I'll change the focus of the question then. What are you and why are you here? As he leaned against the door with barely visible nervousness, he asked that question. A drop of sweat could be seen on his cheek. He had survived. Wasn't this the first time he had come this far? If he died now, it would be a complete waste. He had to cling to life at this point. I must say that accusatory attitude is annoying. I will only answer your second question. I came because I was worried. After all, you were very tired yesterday, weren't you? After hearing that response, he only sharpened his gaze even more. What was she looking for here? He still didn't know. Did she know what happened yesterday? Did Rias tell her? Even so, if she had wanted to kill him, this would be the perfect time to do it. This was a good sign that he could get out of this with just dialogue. Although I'm surprised, you're very analytical and your instincts are very good, it's impressive. As she got up from the bed, she began to approach him. He didn't try to move. While maintaining eye contact with her, she stopped in front of him. About your first question, I'll solve it at school. I'll wait for you in the student council room during recess. Now can you move aside? While Issei was still blocking the way out, he moved aside so she could leave. He could hear her talking to his father before leaving through the front door. After making sure she left, he could relax. TCH, damn it, That arrogant woman. Seriously, there's nothing I hate more than an attitude of superiority in a clear situation of power. After saying that, he threw himself on his bed. He was physically and mentally tired. He needed rest but couldn't because he had to get ready for school. But in the end I survived, didn't I? I thought I had lost my life yesterday. After saying that, he got up and started inspecting his room. Nothing had changed. No, something had definitely changed. Should I take a bath? I'll be late if I don't do it. Besides, I feel dirty from yesterday. As he prepared to leave to get ready for school, he noticed something. When he looked down, he saw that the wound on his wrist had started bleeding again and was staining his shirt. That was a wound that he inflicted on himself every day since entering this loop. After all, he needed to stay sane. He needed something to tell him that he was alive, something to help him resist nightmares at night. He needed to feel alive. I'm lucky that at school we can wear long-sleeve jackets. Explaining bandages on my wrists would be a headache. After saying that, he started getting ready for another day. As he was leaving his house, he noticed something. Certainly everything was different. He had memorized everything in detail, every little change he would notice. But now he could see that everything was somewhat new to him. He had certainly managed to survive. Living was a right he had earned after so much effort, after so much trial and error, after shedding so much sweat, blood and tears. That's why anyone who tries to deny his right to life will regret it. After arriving at the academy, he sat in his usual place. As he looked out the window, he noticed his two friends approaching him. Had they finally forgiven him? After revealing that he had a girlfriend, his two friends felt betrayed and didn't speak to him for the whole week. Had their anger subsided? Hey Issei, we're meeting at the usual place during recess today, are you coming? As Matsuda greeted him, he said that. It seemed they had forgotten their anger. I'm sorry I can't. I have to take care of something during the break. As he said that, he began to think. Right now he was in the wolf's den. This place was infested with supernatural beings and most of them knew that yesterday he killed Yuuma. If they weren't beginners, they could easily know that he killed her with a light sword. At that moment he remembered the question Yuuma asked him when she was dying. In the worst-case scenario, they'll think I'm with the church. Was the president planning to kill him in the student council? But she could have killed him when she was at his house. He would definitely have to go. He wouldn't gain anything by ignoring that invitation. After all, if he did, she could return to his house, and if she had hostile intentions, it would involve his parents. Trying to guess how those beings think was a huge headache. For now, he would focus on class. Recess came. He had to leave his classroom. His goal would be the student council. As he prepared to leave, he noticed a commotion at the entrance. Kiba-kun! Kiba is in our classroom? Excuse me, girls, could you let me pass? Sure. Sure, you can pass all you want. Issei turned around. Looking at the boy approaching him, he knew it. His reasoning was correct. Everyone in the occult club were supernatural beings. Excuse me, you're Hyoudo Issei-kun, aren't you? After standing in front of his seat, Issei stood up to face him. Now that he had him in front of him, it was really unpleasant how attractive he was. Don't tell me, you're Rias-senpai's errand boy? After throwing that insult at him, Kiba just showed a sincere smile, something that displeased him even more. You could say that since I have a message from her that I must deliver to you, could you come for a moment? That really irritated him. Both his attitude and his overall aura caused annoyance. He acted so elegantly as if he were some kind of knight from some fairy tale. Really unpleasant. But what irritated him most was, tell your mistress that if she wants to deliver a message she should come herself and deliver it, not send a useless messenger. After saying that, he ignored him and began walking towards the exit of the classroom. Although he had many questions to ask Rias, he couldn't stand them sending that guy after him. He found it unpleasant for some reason. He heard some murmurs from the girls but ignored them and left the classroom. When he left, he saw a girl leaning against the wall next to the exit. There he felt the same sense of danger. Rude. Your attitude is very rude, Issei-senpai. He stopped, thought about ignoring her, but she grabbed his arm. As he tried to break free, He noticed the tremendous strength of her grip. At that moment someone touched his shoulder. He was immobilized. "I'm sorry, Issei-kun. The president really wants to see you, so I brought reinforcements." Damn, he was surrounded. The knight and the dwarf were now preventing him from escaping. How can such a small girl have so much strength? Of course, supernatural beings. Logic doesn't apply to them. Chapter 6: Demons. He was trapped. The knight and the dwarf had him cornered. Now they were leading him to the occult club. Despite his resistance, it was futile. The girl wouldn't let go of his arm. No matter how hard he tried to break free, he couldn't move her an inch. "TCH, you shouldn't keep doing this. I can walk on my own." As he said that, he tried to free himself again. But it was useless. The strength that small body had was unreal. "It's useless, Issei-kun. Kaneko-chan was given specific orders not to let you escape. Please understand." As he said that, Kiba walked beside him with a playful smile. When he tried again, he noticed the grip getting stronger, causing him pain. "Hey, can you stop squeezing? It's hurting me, damn it, you'll break it if you keep this up." Although he tried to talk to her, it was useless. She had a serious look on her face. Was she upset? No, that didn't matter now. What mattered was how defenseless he was now. Without weapons or a way to defend himself. He didn't bring the light sword because he didn't want to be seen as someone who entered their territory in a hostile manner. Besides, it seems they just wanted to talk since they had many opportunities to kill him before but didn't. Even so. "Damn it, can you let me go? I'm supposed to meet Sana-senpai before recess ends." Upon saying that, they suddenly stopped for a moment. Both the girl and the boy started looking at each other, and nodded at once to continue with the tour. "I see, the president was right. She's also interested in him," Kiba whispered as he squinted his eyes. In the end, someone like her wouldn't go unnoticed by someone with his potential. Besides, he didn't have an owner yet. His master's reasoning was correct. If they had arrived a little later, it would have been too late. After walking a bit, they arrived at the club. Upon entering, Issei noticed a strange atmosphere. He couldn't explain why, but it was clear that he didn't feel comfortable here. After arriving, the girl finally let go of his arm. She sat down on a couch in the club and started eating something. Where did she get that? Well, it didn't matter. "Sorry for the rudeness, Issei-kun. She was just following orders. Don't be too angry with her." Kiba, after that apology, also sat down. Issei began inspecting the club room. For some reason, everything was darker than he thought. His eyes were still getting used to the darkness. Anyway, what were they? Vampires? It was too dark. The only light were some candles illuminating the center of the club. Although he noticed late there was a room from which steam came out and from which water could be heard falling. A shower inside a club? That shouldn't be per dash. Before he could finish his sentence, he was able to adjust his vision correctly, so he could see a figure on the other side of the curtain in that room. It was undoubtedly a woman. He could notice the well-formed curves of her body, her breasts. After noticing that there was a girl bathing, he put his hand on his face. He was nervous, his heart was beating fast, his face was starting to heat up. Damn it, why was his heart beating so much for something like this? What was he, a high school student? Oh wait, I am. After saying that, he tilted his head in confusion. His common sense was undoubtedly something that did not come out unscathed after dying so many times. Pervert. He could hear the white-haired girl insult him. Now that he thought about it, didn't Kiba call her Kaneko? She was the school's mascot. Damn it, do all supernatural beings have to be so pleasing to the eye? All the people he suspected were supernatural beings were handsome without exception, even Kiba, although it repulsed him to admit it. When he took his eyes off Kaneko, he noticed her. The girl who was with Rias yesterday. When she noticed his gaze, she returned a smile and began to approach him. Hyoudo-kun, you seem to be doing well. I must say you look better when your eyes are open. Excuse my late introduction. My name is Himejima Akeno. I am the vice president of the Occult Research Club. While making a slight bow, she introduced herself. At that moment, instinctively his eyes went to her chest. No, He must not forget where he is at this moment, and who he is dealing with now, although her name is Akeno, right? Now he remembered, she was the second best girl in the academy. His friends often talked about her when they had meetings. Hi to Issei, nice to meet you Akeno-senpai. Now, could you tell me why I'm here? After that somewhat rough introduction, he asked her that question. The president will answer your doubts in a moment. Give me a second, Hyoudo-kun. After saying that, she started walking towards the bathroom from where the steam was coming out. Excuse me, President, he's already here. Thank you, Akeno, I'll be out in a moment. He heard Rias's voice from the other side, so it was Rias who was bathing. At that moment his mind began to wander. Was that body really from a third-year student? Even Akeno has an incredible body. No, he should not be thinking about that. He is here for information. Excuse me, Issei. I usually take baths in the club. I hope you don't mind. While drying her hair, she said those words. She began to look around the club. It seems we're all here. Were there any problems? While directing her gaze at Kiba, she asked if they had had any problems coming here. None, President, although the student council president seems to be interested in him. As Kiba answered with some seriousness, Rias narrowed her eyes. Although she knew it wouldn't be strange for him to attract attention in that way, it was still a nuisance. Then with her gaze she asked Kaneko. There was resistance. As she let out those words she returned to what she had been doing before. Rias, hearing this, looked at Issei. I'm sorry, I really wanted to talk to you. I'm very grateful that you're here right now. As she apologized, she said those words. Issei was a little surprised. Did they really want to talk after all? That was really a relief. He didn't want to go through death again. But what did they want to talk to him about? About Yuuma? About what exactly? Even now he doesn't know very well who these people are. So he asked a question. This occult club thing, it's a front, isn't it? As he said that, Rias showed a bit of surprise. Then with a smile, she answered him. You're more perceptive than I thought. You're right. The Occult Studies Club is a front. Now I'll get straight to the point. We are demons. As she said that, he couldn't process what she said. Demons? Like the ones in the Christian religion? Although they don't look anything like what he thought they would be. Is the term demon another way of saying fallen angel? With a visibly confused face she spoke. The girl you killed yesterday was a fallen angel. You know what they are, don't you? After all, you were very accurate when you stabbed her in the heart with the light sword. After saying those words, Issei's thoughts stopped. They knew about the light sword. Although he expected them to find out, after all, with an inspection, anyone would know how he killed her. Now the question was, did they think he was from the church? If they thought so, he would undoubtedly be killed. As he looked around, he noticed that everyone was calm. Why? Reading his thoughts, Rias continued speaking. Don't worry, we know you're not from the church. If you were one of them, you would undoubtedly be the most stupid. After all, why would you be in the same academy where both I and Sauna attend without any guarantee? Besides, coming here to the club without any holy weapon is complete suicide. As she said that, she let out a little laugh. He understood now. It was undoubtedly a good decision not to bring any weapon. Although, of course, my opinion can change depending on your answer to the following questions. Now tell me, where did you get that light sword from? How did you get it? And the most important question, how did you know she was a fallen angel? With a serious face Rias asked. He knew this was a serious question, he noticed it in the atmosphere. Should he lie? If he did he could get out of this, although if they noticed his lie he could die. With a drop of sweat on his forehead he answered. About how I knew she was a fallen angel, someone warned me. It was that same person who gave me the light sword. If you wonder why I believed him, you should know that I have good instincts. Besides, I knew something was wrong in her head when she confessed to me. He decided to lie. Although it wasn't a lie that a person gave him the sword, he couldn't just say that he knew beforehand that she was a fallen angel. They wouldn't believe him even if it were true. Silence. Everyone was silent. Issei swallowed hard. Did they notice his lie? If they did, it would be the end. 5 seconds passed, 10 seconds and... PFTT, ha 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 ha. He heard laughter. Rias started laughing heartily. Akeno covered her lips while laughing, even Kiba started laughing. Kaneko stopped eating and showed a small smile. What was this? Some kind of joke to them? As he got angry, Rias spoke. And no, I'm sorry, it's just that it was funny. The reason why you believed a random person that your girlfriend was a fallen angel who planned to kill you was just because she confessed to you? Although he was happy that at least they believed him, it irritated him how everyone was laughing at him. It wasn't just that. Where outside of science fiction would you see a magic sword that cuts metal like butter? That's what finally convinced me, Issei said with an annoyed tone. While wiping away her tears of laughter, Rias replied. Certainly, that would convince anyone. I should also say that your instincts towards danger are good. When we met yesterday, we could notice how your body identified us as an enemy. It's a very useful peculiarity. As she finished drying her tears, she said that. Issei relaxed. It seemed they believed him, although he still had questions. Issei-kun, could I ask you later about that person? I'm curious. As Kiba joined the conversation, he asked him that. Issei could only nod. It seems the suspicions were dissipating. That was good. Alright, Issei, we got off topic. Now tell me, how much do you know about the supernatural world? As Rias composed herself, she went to the main topic. Nothing really, the only thing I know is that there are fallen angels and that there are weapons in possession of people from the church that can kill them. As he sincerely said what he knew about supernatural beings, a question arose. Rias-senpai, earlier you said you were demons. Exactly, what does that mean? As he asked that question, Rias immediately replied. As you heard, we are demons. If you think we are the same as fallen angels, you are wrong. It's like comparing angels in service to God with demons in service to Satan. You could say we are natural enemies of both. Now he thinks he understands a little better now. If he took as reference the books he read during the loops, then that would mean there were different factions and that demons were enemies of both fallen angels and angels. This was undoubtedly a headache, a whole new world, of which he had no knowledge, in which if he got involved, his life would be in danger. Although he wanted to delve deeper into the topic, a question arose. I understand it, but I still have a doubt, Rias-senpai. Why did you call me here? Was it to make sure I wasn't someone from the church? When he asked her that question, Rias began to walk towards where he was, making him more nervous. Issei, I want you to become my servant. Chapter 7 Sacred Gear. No, first of all, why was she asking him something like that? How is he supposed to react now? After all, she is asking him to align with her against the other factions. He still didn't know how many factions there were. But with the two she mentioned, it was enough for him not to try to get involved. It was suicide for him to enter that world. It would be complete stupidity for him being so weak to join some side. Besides, it would go against the new objective he set for himself. If I reject your proposal, what will happen to me? As he backed away a little, he asked that question. He knew who he was rejecting the proposal from. She was a demon. Even just standing in front of her, he knew how dangerous she was. Even the dwarf had a strength that far surpassed his own. If she was just a servant, how powerful would her mistress be? It wouldn't be strange if she could kill him with just a finger lift. He didn't want to die. But he can't just accept that proposal and have several factions of different races looking for his head. Rias didn't look so surprised. It was an answer she didn't expect, although she thought it was a possibility that he would answer like that. Nothing really. If you refuse, we will let you go right now. As she said that, Issei blinked in surprise. They would let him go, just like that? He knew they were demons. Didn't they plan to silence him? It didn't seem like she was lying, but it was too suspicious. He had information about something that in theory he shouldn't have. Being human, something was wrong. His instinct told him so. Even so, he decided to ignore it. When he thought about leaving, he heard Rias continue talking. We will leave you alone, but I couldn't be sure that the other factions will do the same, lest the faction of the fallen angels, you killed one of theirs, remember? As he thought about turning around and leaving, he heard those words, right, the faction of the fallen angels. If they had a sense of camaraderie, they would undoubtedly come to avenge Yuma's death. Demons or not. Whether he liked it or not. He was already involved in this. Looking at Rias, he asked her a question. What benefit would I get from becoming your servant? All I see are disadvantages. If I join your side, wouldn't I be in the same position as now? As he asked her that question, he looked her in the eyes. You're wrong. If you join me as my servant, the chances of another faction attacking you will drop considerably. Among demons there are structured ranks. The title of my family is very privileged in the underworld. Both fallen angels and angels won't be able to do anything to you if you carry the mark of my family. As she said that, he could notice some annoyance and pride in her voice. So if he joins her, his future problems will be solved? If so, he wouldn't have any problems doing it. Although he still couldn't fully trust her statements. I have a question. Why do you want to make me your servant? I don't think I have anything special. If you only take into account what happened with the fallen angel, anyone could have done it under my circumstances. As he said that, his voice faltered a bit. Did she know about his power? If so, he would understand why she would want him on her side. But if she's only proposing this because of killing the fallen angel, he would definitely distrust her. After all, he doesn't believe that achievement is such a big deal. Anyone in their desperation would have done the same. It's not just because of that. I'd say it's my instinct telling me I must make you my servant at all costs. Issei, do you know the term sacred gear? That word again, sacred gear, they had repeated it to him countless times, but he still didn't really understand what it was. If it was what Yuuma told him, then without a doubt Rias knew that he had a power, but did she know that he could come back from the dead? Yes, the fallen angel mentioned that word when he tried to kill me. He said it was a power that is granted to humans. Although he stumbled a bit, he was able to answer. If she knew about his power, that would definitely be something to consider. That's correct, you have a power that was granted to you by God. If you become a demon and use that power to help me fulfill my objectives, I in return will promise in my name, and in the name of the Gremry family, that I will do the same to help you fulfill your objectives. With a serious voice she declared that. At that moment, Issei felt overwhelmed, walked a little and sat next to Kiba. He felt him put his hand on his shoulder, although he ignored him. With one hand on his forehead he started to think. Without a doubt it was a tempting offer. No, it was an excellent offer. If he accepted, his problems with the fallen angels would be solved. He would have Rias' protection, and could at least have a quiet student life. Something that was right now his goal. He just wanted to stop thinking about things like living or dying. He wanted to go back to his previous life as an ordinary human. If he had to ally himself with demons and become one in order to live peacefully, he will do it without doubting. Wait a minute. Become a demon? Wait a minute, Rias-senpai. If I accept, will I become a demon? With a face of disbelief he asked that. Yes. I will turn you into a demon if you accept. Rias tilted her head as if she didn't understand why he was asking her that while answering with an innocent tone. Excuse me, President, but it seems that he doesn't like the idea of becoming a demon. While Akeno whispered that to Rias, she looked at Issei, who was with eyes of disbelief. Something like becoming a demon he hadn't considered at all. If he becomes one, there would be no turning back. He didn't want to leave his life as a human being. When he almost lost his mind in the loops, the only thing that kept him sane was the feeling of self. He was very attached to his humanity. He couldn't accept leaving it just for his selfish desires. Even if the fallen angels, demons and angels want to go after him, he will never give up his humanity. I'm sorry, Rias-senpai, but right now all I have is my humanity. I can't throw it away like something disposable. As he said that, he decided to leave the club. There was nothing more to discuss. He didn't care about the fallen angels anymore. When the time comes for them to hunt him down, he will think of something. I say, wait. Don't you care about your life? If you don't do anything now, they could come after you today. As Rias shouted at him in disbelief, he stopped as he touched the door handle. He didn't want to die. That's the thought he had in his head. But losing the only thing he clings to was undoubtedly something worse than death. He couldn't lose his humanity. I'm sorry. I've made up my mind already. Don't worry about my well-being. I won't let anyone kill me. He understood that this was a stupid idea. To pass up this opportunity just for such a silly reason. It was stupidity that could cause him many problems in the future. But he didn't care. Right now he had to think about how to deal with the fallen angels. When he finally opened the door and was about to leave, he came face to face with the student council president. Hyoudo-kun, didn't I tell you to come to the student council during recess? Next time I'll tell your parents how you hid in the girls' bathroom last month as punishment. As she entered the club she said that. Issei was surprised to see her, since because of the conversation he had with Rias, he had completely forgotten about her. Now that he thought about it, did she have the same objective as Rias? That's why she summoned him. He stood at the entrance not knowing what to do. Are you going to stand there? Come here, I have to discuss something with you. Rias, from what I see you did poorly with the negotiation. I thought you would convince him. While looking at Rias with a smile she said that. Issei went back in. He was no longer thinking about negotiating, so he would make it clear to both of them. I know what you're thinking, Hyoudo-kun. Don't worry, I didn't come to convince you to be my servant. As she said that, she urged him to sit down, so he did. What did she have planned? Wait a minute. Now that he thought about it. Hey, I don't remember going into the girls' bathroom last month. As Issei said that, the president looked at him. No, you didn't. Although who will they believe? Just give up. Now we'll talk about something more important. As she said that, Rias looked at her. I must say it's a nuisance having to show this side of me. Issei doesn't want to become a demon. What do you plan to do? As she said that with a defeated tone, she looked at Sauna who had a smile. Nothing you haven't thought of. I know you were already planning on doing this. But I'll help you watch over him in case he's in danger. As she said that, she adjusted her glasses. Issei was a little surprised. Did she plan on taking care of him even if he refused to join her faction? That was something he didn't expect. As Issei turned his gaze towards Rias, she showed him a smile. I still feel guilty that you had to deal with the fallen angel on your own. We knew she was after you. But we ignored it because we thought she just wanted to watch over you. I'm sorry. As she apologized, Issei could only divert his gaze towards the ceiling. She certainly wasn't to blame for what happened. Although if they had warned him at least he would have died less times. No. Even if they had warned him he wouldn't have believed them. Anyway, that wasn't important now. Hyoudo-kun. About your sacred gear. Do you know how to activate it? You need a way to defend yourself. Killing a fallen angel with a light sword, although inefficient, was very ingenious. But it won't work again for you. They won't underestimate you next time. As she said that she looked at Issei with serious eyes. His sacred gear. His method of activation was to die and restart time a week before his death. That was the only information he had about it. No. He had a little more information, but anyway he can't share it with anyone, so. I'm sorry, Sauna-senpai, yesterday was the first time I heard that word, so I don't know how to activate it. As he told such a clear lie, Rias was the next one to speak. Activating it is simple. Raise your left hand, close your eyes, and visualize the most powerful image you can. With that, it should be enough. As Rias watched Issei, she gave him instructions on how to activate his sacred gear. He knew nothing would happen. He knew that wasn't the method of activation, but it didn't matter for now. He would follow her instructions. The most powerful image he has, that would undoubtedly be the image of that psychopath. She was someone who could only kill with a lot of luck and several attempts in between. If he died now, there's no doubt he would die many more times to kill her again. Thinking about that fallen angel, something happened. A green light illuminated the club room, and his left arm was covered with a red gauntlet with claws that looked like a dragon's arm. At that moment, Issei didn't know what was happening. What the hell was this? Could it be the physical form of his ability to go back in time? Twice critical, I see. While Sauna whispered that, Issei looked at her surprised. Did she know what it was? As Sauna-senpai, do you know what this is on my arm? Do you know exactly what it does? With disbelief, Issei asked her. That's your sacred gear, Hyoudo-kun. It seems like a twice critical. It doubles your power. Although it's common, it will undoubtedly be useful to you. As she said that, Issei stood up abruptly. What the hell was this? If this was his sacred gear, if this was what Yuuma was after, what the hell was making him go back in time? If it wasn't a sacred gear, what was it? He didn't understand. His head started to hurt. All this time he thought his ability to come back from death was due to the supposed sacred gear that Yuuma told him about. But apparently it wasn't. Damn, if he could ask someone what the hell this power was, he would do it without a doubt. But he can't do that. After all, if he did, he would instantly wake up in his bed a week earlier. Clarifications. If you wonder why I decided to leave him the boosted gear, it's simple, it's a crucial part of the story. I couldn't just discard it and give it to someone else. Besides, there's the issue that Issei is a mere human. Even if he has the return of death, he will face extremely strong people in the future. So it would be difficult to advance the story in that way. Although it's just a compliment, his main ability will be the return of death. Chapter 8: Poison. Ha! While Issei sighed, he lay down on his bed tiredly. Today was a very long day. He had a constant headache that wouldn't stop. As he stared at the ceiling with a lost look, he whispered, "I don't know what to think anymore. This throbbing headache won't let me think properly. Maybe it's because I've been in contact with demons for too long." As he closed his eyes, he began to think. His power to go back in time was not a sacred gear. He was able to confirm it when they gave him a large amount of information in the club after activating his own. Although there were sacred gears capable of manipulating time to some extent, none could literally bend time and restart the world. That power was like an authority he had over the world. No, it was more like a curse. It's not a sacred gear, it's not a power that God would give to a human being to help him, it's more like a curse that he imposed on me as punishment. He didn't understand anything anymore. If God was the one who gave him this curse, what purpose did he do it for? Even now he didn't understand what he did wrong to be given this power. If he could, he would try to get rid of it. After all, if this power is activated every time he dies, in a hypothetical case that he died of old age, would he repeat that death for eternity? Restarting a week before his death and dying again? Of course, he still doesn't know if this power is infinite, so he must stop relying on it. It may have a limit of uses. Without a doubt, he needs information. A different world opened up before his eyes, one that defies logic. He may find information about his power in that new world, although it was a headache not being able to talk about it with other people. It seems there are certain rules. When I spoke to Yuuma about the loops, I had the feeling that nothing would happen. That's why I revealed it, but in the past he tried to ask for help. At the beginning of the loops he tried to cling to other people. He wanted to entrust his power to others so they could help him get out of that eternal despair. But it was useless. He told his friends about how he could go back in time when he died. But at that moment, in a blink of an eye, the world had changed. When he opened his eyes again, he noticed that he was in his bed. The date marked the beginning of the week. He had died. Maybe if I say it directly or people come to the conclusion because of my actions, something forces my death and makes me restart. Yuuma at that time was choking on her own blood. I don't think she could come to a logical conclusion in that state. But why wouldn't they let him talk about it? Why God? No, the person who gave him this power? The being who was watching him didn't let him talk about him. I won't get anywhere like this. Besides, there's the issue with Sauna-senpai and Rias-senpai. Although he could see that despite being supernatural beings, they were not natural killers like Yuuma. It was really a relief that they were not hostile towards him at all. Since if that had been the case, now he would have to worry about both fallen angels and demons at his academy. They told me they would be watching me to prevent anything from happening to me. Although I appreciate it, I feel like they want to win my sympathy so I can join their clan. Really, his distrust towards the supernatural could not be completely extinguished. Although they seemed like normal people, he could not underestimate them. He did once and ended up dying 87 times. No matter how cute and sweet a person may seem, you never know what they are really thinking inside. That's why he wouldn't trust others so easily again. He must definitely look for a way to kill supernatural beings without depending on artifacts like the light sword that require very specific attributes and situations to be effective. Although his sacred gear could double his power, it was still useless. After all, 0 multiplied by 0 is still 0. His humanity was undoubtedly a disadvantage. Rias mentioned this in another attempt to persuade him. For now, he needs to rest, he won't get anywhere like this. The next day, he left his house as usual, arrived at the academy and entered his classroom, then classes began. Apparently everything was fine, despite everything yesterday, he was able to continue with his normal student life. This was all he was looking for, a peaceful life like this day. Recess came. At that moment someone touched his shoulder. When he turned around he noticed a girl with black hair. Hyoudo-kun, the president asked me to find you. She is waiting for you in the library, don't be late. After saying that, she left the classroom. Wasn't she the vice president of the student council? He didn't remember her name. She was always next to Sauna. He definitely needs to start focusing more on remembering people's names, or one of these days someone will hate him. Understanding that he should go there, he prepared to leave. It's not like it was something he wasn't expecting. Hyoudo-kun, it seems that Sabaki delivered my message to you. I'm glad that this time you didn't leave. She was looking for you for almost all of yesterday's recess, you know? So that happened. Sauna had sent Sabaki yesterday to look for him. Not finding him in his classroom, she started looking for him all over the academy. I see, I owe her an apology for that. Where is she? She's always by your side. As he sat down in front of her, he asked her that question. He looked around the library but didn't see her. It was strange to him that she wasn't with Sauna. I ordered her to just deliver the message to you. I wanted to talk to you alone. Did she order her? Is she your servant? Now that I think about it, what position do both you and Rias-senpai occupy in the supernatural world? Although they talked about several topics yesterday, they focused in depth on the sacred gears. Rias only told him that her family was very influential, but that's it. Before that, Hyoudo-kun, would you like a game? As she put a chessboard in the middle of the table, she asked him that question. Chess? I'm sorry, I've never played before. I only know the rules. As he looked at the chessboard that came out of practically nowhere, he answered her that. Is that so? I'll treat you as gently as possible then. As she said that, she started the game. While they were playing, he noticed some looks from certain people in the library. Some curious people stayed watching from afar. Although it was normal. He was very well known in the academy as the perverted beast, and Sauna was the president of the student council. This combination was incompatible. Ignore them, focus on the game. As he got distracted looking around, she told him not to worry. Hyoudo-kun, about the question you asked me earlier about our position in the underworld. As she moved a piece, she started talking. Although I can't give too many details, we could say that we are both heirs of very influential clans in the underworld. Issei sharpened his eyes. He had already lost 2 pawns without having started the game well yet. He was undoubtedly very bad at this game. So that's it. It must be a huge stress. As he began to get frustrated by being at such a disadvantage, Sauna began to show a small smile. Yes, it's a huge burden. We must show at all times that we have the capacity to lead. Although of course we are not the only ones with a burden on our shoulders. As they continued playing, Issei noticed that little by little his moves were improving, which was something positive. Can I ask you something, Hyoudo-kun? As he was slowly adapting to the game, Sauna asked him that question. Sure, what's up? After saying that, Sauna continued speaking. Why have you changed so much? Even your gaze is different. No, it's as if you were a completely different person from the last time I saw you. Was it such a traumatic event to meet that fallen angel? As Issei stopped his arm with which he was going to move his piece, she asked him that question. So she noticed, even his 2 closest friends couldn't notice the difference in his acting, although he's not a great actor either. His mother sometimes asked him if he was okay, since she knew something was wrong with him. It was normal for someone who knew him once before entering that loop to notice the change. Yes, you're right. Being in constant danger was really stressful. During the past week there wasn't a moment when I didn't think, what if I failed by at least a millimeter in stabbing her in the heart? Eliminating a life never crossed my mind either, let alone the life of a girl, even if she was a fallen angel. As he said that, he noticed that the president's hand stopped for a moment, then slowly moved to take his last pawn. Damn it, she was really good at this. I understand, Hyoudo-kun. I think I can understand why you don't want to join any clan. Things like life or death, you don't want to think about that again. Issei was surprised. She definitely hit the nail on the head. That made him look her in the eyes. I'll tell you this just once, Hyoudo-kun. Rias feels guilty that you had to go through that experience. Just like me, we will support you so that you don't have to go through that again. That's what she wanted to get at. Issei looked at the board. Even a beginner like him knew he was about to lose the game. Although he didn't care, he felt that most of the words Sauna said were to make him feel empathy. He had generated a notable rejection of the supernatural, and his level of distrust was very high towards other people. That's why he felt the previous conversation as an attempt to make him feel understood, and thus lower his guard so that he would accept becoming a servant of either of them. Your gaze became extremely annoying all of a sudden. As Sauna looked at him with an annoyed face, she suddenly ended with his tower. Do you know what evil pieces are, Hyoudo-kun? Evil pieces, he had never heard that term before. No, I don't know. He was in check. The game was almost won. I'll simplify it for you. Evil pieces are chess-based pieces given to the upper class of the underworld. They serve to reincarnate other species into demons, and thus make them their servants. That was the method Rias wanted to use on you. He understood now. So that's what it was. It's very interesting information. If it's based on chess, does that mean both Rias-senpai and Sauna-senpai are kings? Yes, you're right. Although it's not their only peculiarity. I said it before, it serves to reincarnate other species. In other words, it can bring them back to life even after they die. At that moment Issei stopped his arm. He was in checkmate. He had lost. I'll say it again. Rias is not someone you should distrust. If she really were a bad person, she wouldn't try to protect you, she would let you die to reincarnate you as a demon against your will. Keep that in mind. As the game ended, she told him those words. After sighing a little, she continued. I understand your circumstances, but don't let that blind you into distrusting everything. That will eventually turn against you. We need to work together. There must not be any distrust between us, or you will undoubtedly end up dying. As she said this, she looked at the clock on the library wall. Recess is almost over. As she said those words, she got up from her seat to leave, although Issei grabbed her arm. What's up? As she looked at him in surprise, he asked her that. Can the evil pieces bring people back to life, even after their soul leaves their body? If that's true, if I had died with the fallen angel, would Rias-senpai have revived me and turned me into a demon? Issei was surprised to hear that, if that was true then. Why yes, the probability is very high. Even I would have come to make you my servant. Why do you ask? As she asked that question, several people in the library were surprised to see Issei grabbing the arm of the student council president. That would undoubtedly play against him if there were rumors, but he didn't care. And nothing, I'm grateful they thought of doing that. Sorry for surprising you. As he stuttered that, after fixing her uniform, the president left the library. The bell rang, but Issei stayed seated in the same place. That's really a relief. As he said that, he started walking back to his classroom. He had two hypotheses about his power. The first one was simple. That his ability would rewind time just at the moment he lost his life. That was the best-case scenario. The second hypothesis was that his ability would transfer his soul to another timeline just a week before he died. Although I can't say that those evil pieces are as powerful as to bring a soul from another timeline, now the first hypothesis seems more probable than the second. Yes, that was undoubtedly the best thing. If the world continued even after his death, he couldn't bear the idea of Yuuma still being alive in some timeline, laughing like an idiot about how she killed him. That definitely took a weight off his shoulders. As he walked, he remembered what the president told him. So she noticed my look of distrust towards everyone in the club. Now I understand why she quoted me. He wouldn't fully trust them yet. After all, trust is a poison. He can't take too much of it because he will eventually die if he does. For the moment, he will only take a sip and leave things to them for now. Chapter 9, Old Acquaintance. It had been several days since the student council president called him to the library. He thought about leaving things for now. These days have been relatively quiet. Nothing has happened that caught his attention. The only annoying thing was how insistent Rias was in trying to call him almost every day to the occult club, and how insistent both she and Sauna were that he did not deviate on his way to the academy. Although at first he found these measures annoying, in the end he got used to it enough not to show an irritated face. It seems that for now it will be fine to trust them with things. They have kept their promise so far. If I suspect the slightest of them, I think I can at least defend myself. As he said this, he was walking towards the academy. Although not much time has passed since he woke up his sacred gear and started training with it, he felt for no apparent reason a great evolution in it. Also, the information that Sauna and Rias gave him was incorrect, it seems. His twice critical could not only double his power once. Every 10 seconds it doubles my power. Although I have noticed that it is a huge burden on my body, it is still too useful. Although for now he could not think of a scenario in which he could scratch either of the two, it was a good sign that he was advancing. Although his power evolved, the shape of his sacred gear apparently did not. The information that both Rias and Sauna gave him was incorrect again. Was that information false? No, it's totally silly to lie with something like that, besides there's no reason to do it. If they were not lying, that meant that for some reason he was not following the established pattern. Thinking more deeply, it was normal. Since he killed Yuuma, he was not following the pattern that the world had established for him, which was to die at her hands and be revived as a demon. Although I still keep the information of the sacred gear hidden from them, he still felt uncomfortable with them. Everyone in the occult club treated him as if he were a comrade. Even Sauna invited him to the student council to play chess almost every day during recess. This kind of treatment did not seem common to him. The reason Rias gave him for protecting him for now was because she felt guilty for letting him deal with the fallen angel on his own. Sauna's reason was her responsibility as student council president. Although both have made it clear to me that they have not yet given up on making me their servant, even every day both hint at the advantages of joining their clan. Although their reasons for helping him were silly, he could trust those reasons. As the president said, if their only goal was to take advantage of him, they would have left him alone to die, and then turn him into their servant afterwards. Even so, if I keep growing at this rate, I will end this cooperation as soon as I can defend myself well enough. After all, I don't want that poison to end up killing me. He did not want to be betrayed. He had already gone through that once. No, 87 times before. The feeling of being betrayed was something he did not want to repeat. It was painful enough for him instinctively not want to be close enough to someone. If he could trust someone, it would be someone who he knows for certain would never betray him. Even so, he does not believe that such a person exists. If such a person exists, without a doubt they would be very manipulative. As he continued in his thoughts, he continued walking towards his academy. Although suddenly he noticed something on the ground that prevented him from continuing his way. Panties? As he looked surprised at what was in front of him, he saw her. A girl had tripped in front of him. People are getting more careless these days. He whispered that as he kept walking. He couldn't take a detour and help this girl. Rias and Sauna were very blunt in their instructions. Even so, he felt a little bad about leaving someone in that state. At least he should help her pick up her things. Hey, are you okay? After returning, he asked her that and gave her a hand. Now that he noticed, her clothes were undoubtedly a bit strange. She took his hand and thanked him. At that moment there was a slight breeze in the place that took away the piece of cloth that covered her face. Blonde, her hair was a beautiful blonde color. Looking at her face closely, he noticed how attractive she was. Was she his age? No, before that, Issei picked up the piece of cloth that had fallen off before. Was it a veil? After trying to return it to her, he noticed it. A cross. Thank you very much. As she put it on, he could see her more closely. Was she a nun? He doesn't remember there being a church in this place. Wait, there was one in this place, although in that place there is. Excuse me, can you help me? I'm a little lost. While his gaze remained fixed on her, he could notice her with marked embarrassment. It was because of his gaze. He should leave his bad habit of getting lost in his thoughts when he is looking at someone. If you could help me, I would be grateful. With a little embarrassment, she asked him for that favor. She was a nun, how should he respond now? He was allied with demons for the moment, should he treat her as an enemy? Looking into her eyes, he could tell she had no ill intentions. Even so, deviating from his path was something he was strictly forbidden to do. In the end, he gave in. That look she had was a big nuisance. If he had told her no, he would feel like kicking a defenseless puppy. Although she was human, maybe that had something to do with him helping her. Being surrounded by demons all the time made his body involuntarily be on alert all the time. In moments when he interacted with other humans, his body could relax. I'm glad to have found such a kind person. It was undoubtedly a miracle from God. As she said this, she joined her hands. Are you a nun? I say this because of your outfit. As he asked this, he glanced at her. She had a crucifix on her chest. If she wasn't a nun, it was undoubtedly good cosplay. Yes, I was assigned to the church in this town. I'm grateful that you're guiding me. When it comes to directions, I'm a bit distracted. As she said this, she blushed slightly. At that moment, Issei immersed himself in his thoughts. This was a bit unusual. If they assigned her to the only church in this town, it means she would be working near that lunatic. It was undoubtedly a very incompatible combination. Although now he could take advantage of this opportunity to thank him. Although he deviated slightly from his path to the academy, he doesn't think anything serious will happen. Besides, he helped him out of whim, but it was undoubtedly key to getting out of that loop. At least thanks wouldn't hurt. As they continued walking, both noticed a child crying in a small park holding his leg, which had a small wound on it. People are getting more and more distracted these days, he thought, glancing at the nun. She immediately ran over to the child, and although it surprised him a bit, he didn't do anything but just started following her. Come on, don't cry, you're a boy, you shouldn't cry. As she said those words, she joined her hands and put them near the wound, and at that moment he felt an annoyance in his left arm, although he ignored it, and green light began to illuminate the child's wound, slowly filtering into the wound, closing it completely. At that moment, he sharpened his eyes. He had no doubt that power was a sacred gear. He stepped back a bit. The girl turned her head at that moment to look at him and made a gesture with her finger to keep the secret. They continued walking in the direction of the church. He was more alert about her. Although she was not a fallen angel and neither a demon, she still had supernatural power. While he was glancing at her, he decided to speak. That power, it's something incredible, I think. As he said this with little enthusiasm and a bit of distrust towards her, suddenly she looked him in the eyes. Yes, it's a wonderful power that God gave me, she answered with a smile. Although he could detect that it was a fake smile almost immediately, after all he had faked the same smile dozens of times. Suddenly she raised her voice. Oh, there it is. After saying that, she pointed to the church. Thank you very much. I would like to return the favor. Would you like to accompany me? After saying that, Issei looked towards the church. Sure, although your name, you haven't told me yet. After remembering that she hadn't introduced herself, he asked her for her name. Although for some reason this situation seemed familiar to him. That's right, Asia Argento. You can call me Asia. After introducing herself, he did the same. Hiya to Issei. You can call me whatever you like, Asia. After the introductions, they headed to the church. He was wondering if that guy would be there. After all, he had told him that he would be in that church when he gave him the light sword. Now that he thought about it, hadn't he told him to return it when he was done? He could make up an excuse if he asked for it. It's a relief to have found such a kind person as soon as I arrived in Japan. After saying that, Issei glanced at her. She didn't seem like a bad girl. Although he's not an expert at judging people, even he can clearly know what kind of personality she has. Undoubtedly it is a very manipulative personality. They arrived at the doors of the church. Asia knocked on the door several times but no one answered, although he noticed something. Is it open? After noticing that it was open, he opened the door. Upon opening it, he noticed that everything was dark. Without a doubt, it's a super creepy place to be a church, he thought. At that moment, his unconscious sight noticed a faint white light to his left. His mind stopped. He couldn't say anything, he couldn't react to anything, everything was silent. At that moment, a question arose in him: why was his head so close to the floor? Chapter 10: Trust. Thank you very much, I would like to return the favor. Would you like to accompany me? Light. His sight at that moment was suffocated by an incandescent light. By reflex his sight went to the front, where the blonde-haired girl was with a smile. Eh? That was the only thing that came out of his mouth. He still didn't understand what was happening. A few moments ago he was inside the church, and in 1 second he... Ah, of course, excuse me, you must be busy. His mind was blank, thinking. He had to think. Had he died? No doubt he did, but how did he do it? It was so fast that he couldn't react. Suddenly his hand unconsciously went to his neck. Was I beheaded? At that moment he realized it. At that instant, he could notice a faint light on his left. That light was undoubtedly something he had seen before. Even so, he couldn't react at all. They killed him without resistance. This was the first time someone killed him like this. Without a moment to think, without questions, without giving him time for anything. That was something he had never experienced before. Excuse me, what did you say? While she tilted her head confused after he whispered that, he immediately responded. And nothing, it's just that you haven't told me your name. He was wrong. Everything happened too fast. His death was almost instantaneous. Besides, his return point had changed. Didn't it take him back a week? He couldn't process this information so quickly. It's true, it's Asia Argento, you can call me Asia. At that moment he instinctively grabbed his head. Why wasn't he taken back a week? Although it was a relief not to go back so far in time, it was still contradictory. His power was supposed to take him back a week. But now it had only taken him back a few minutes. Why? Excuse me, are you okay? If you feel bad, we can go to the church, I'm sure you can rest there. While she looked at him with worried eyes, he instinctively took a step back. If he went to the church, he would be attacked. Besides, that light he saw for a second was undoubtedly a light sword. That crazy son of a hitch, did he kill him? He couldn't let this girl go to the church. If she did, she would also be. See, sure, let's go, although could you do me a favor first? He decided to go. He had to confirm his suspicions. If it was that bastard now, he could know where he would attack from. Although his confidence in himself had taken a hit. He thought he had advanced enough to defend himself. But no, he died so pathetically that it hurt his pride a lot. Right now this was about simple ego and not logic. He arrived at the church again. He didn't knock on the door. He opened it directly at that moment. I knew it, son of a hitch, it was you. At that moment he activated his sacred gear, which collided with the light sword that was aimed at his neck. There he could see that bastard. Oh, hello, long time no see. After deflecting his sword, the man with the light sword jumped back, landing on the ground. He spoke calmly, as if he had just given a simple greeting. In this attempt he decided not to bring Asia, she would only be a hindrance, so he gave her an excuse to wait for him in a park. What does this mean, crazy fool? Explain yourself. While his sacred gear accumulated increases, he asked him that question. What do you mean, fool? This is just a greeting between colleagues. Did you bring the light sword? Although it's not something special, I hate people who don't keep their promises, you know? A greeting? This crazy bastard, did he behead him as a greeting? No doubt his common sense was more damaged than his own. By the way, that thing on your arm is really disgusting. Seeing it makes me want to gut you. Although you're not a demon, that takes a lot of points off the fun. While saying that with regret, he could see something behind him. A second, that was fallen angels? I'm sorry, Fried, but I have unfinished business with that boy. It seems it was that bastard who killed Ryanair. While a girl with black wings and purple hair positioned herself next to him, she said that. Even so, twice critical? Ryanair died because of a sacred gear like that? While looking at him with clear contempt, she said that. Wait a minute, hey stupid, the light sword, don't tell me you used it to kill that hexy fallen angel? I can't let you live if it was you. He had told him in the park that he would use the light sword to kill a demon, although at that moment fallen angel and demon were the same for Issei. Freed, son of a Hitchu. You know what? It doesn't matter, I'll talk to you later. For now let's take care of him quickly. Asia will be here soon. Issei inspected the whole church. There were still 2 more fallen angels behind those 2. But they didn't do anything. They just watched. Even so, were they waiting for Asia? He couldn't think anymore. The light sword approached his neck again. Although this time he could see his attack better. That crazy man moved too fast. When intercepting the sword again, he thought about counterattacking. But at that moment, he felt something hot in his leg. His hand went to it by reflex. Light spear. A light spear had embedded itself in his leg. Looking straight ahead, he could see the purple-haired woman summoning another one again. As she attacked him again with another spear, he could predict its trajectory and dodge it. But he had lost sight of that crazy man. Bang! A bullet. A bullet found its way into his chest, tearing apart much of it. I'm sorry, buddy. This time you messed up too much. So you'll have to die. He had a gunshot wound in his chest and a light spear embedded in his leg. He was in checkmate. At that moment another light spear embedded itself in him. But this time it was in his heart. KGH. He was on the ground. He couldn't move anymore. At that moment he heard someone scream. Was that Asia? No doubt she is someone stupid. Now she would also die. At that moment his thoughts stopped. He had died. Thank you very much, I would like to return the favor. Would you like to accompany me? He grabbed his face. The sunlight bothered him. He had died again without much resistance. He died pathetically. This was something he couldn't stand. It was annoying without a doubt. His pride was shattered by dying like this. Anyway, what should he do? What should be his plan of action? Should he go to the academy and abandon Asia to avoid dying? No, that was out of the question now that he knew what was in that church. He can't just let her go there and die. It wasn't in his ethics to do something like that. Should he ask Rias and Sauna for help? No, he couldn't trust them in this case. He disobeyed them in the first place. He had already broken his promise with them, so. Is that your explanation, Issei? Why did you bring a nun here to an academy full of demons? After thinking about it for a bit, the option with the most chances of survival was to take her to the academy, more precisely to the occult club, where Rias was sitting in front of a desk with an irritated face. What did you want me to do? Face several fallen angels, even a priest? That was practically suicide. While he was sitting in front of Rias, he was looking at her with a carefree face. Luckily, he was able to convince Asia to follow him to the academy. Fortunately, she was very easy to convince. She was obediently waiting outside the club. No doubt he would have problems in the future if he met a really bad guy. Couldn't you leave her? She is practically our natural enemy. Besides, what do you want me to do exactly? Protect her? You're being irrational. For the first time he could notice a clear anger in Rias' tone of voice. He found it adorable to see her like that. I couldn't let her die. She's not a bad girl. Besides, I think she can be useful to you. While saying that, he got up from his chair and opened the club door where Asia was waiting. Issei-san, really I should go back dash. Before she could finish the sentence, Issei took her by the arm to sit her in front of Rias. Asia, I told you before, right? This is for your own good. Now heal this wound. Before she could reply, Issei showed her a small wound he had on his finger. He had made it on his way to the academy with a needle. But Issei-san, that girl, who is dash? While Asia looked at Rias with clear surprise, Rias spoke. Ignore me, please. Continue, Miss Nun. While Rias crossed her arms seriously, she replied to Asia. Somewhat shy, Asia looked at Issei. Issei-san, are you sure? With a somewhat nervous voice, Asia asked Issei that. Don't worry, Asia. I wouldn't do anything to harm you. Asia, closing her eyes a little, trusted Issei's words and started healing his wound. When it was completely closed, Issei looked at Rias. Incredible, isn't it? She's very useful. While showing Rias the wound that had closed in a few seconds, she closed her eyes seriously. Twilight healing. I understand now why the fallen angels were waiting for her. After whispering that, Rias spoke. Miss Nun, what is your name? After asking her that question, Asia replied. Asia Argento, Mississippi. After replying with clear lack of confidence, Rias replied to her. Rias Gremory. You can call me Rias. Can you step out for a moment, please? I need to discuss something with Issei. After nodding, she left the club. I must say she is a rare treasure. Although Issei, aren't you being too optimistic? After all, a nun won't easily agree to become a demon. After saying that, Rias sighed. A nun who has lived all her life praying to the God of the Bible, no doubt she would not accept. I'm not so sure we've been talking. I don't think she cares. She's easy to convince, although you have to play your cards right or she'll refuse. Rias Senpai, can I entrust Asia and the fallen angels matter to you? After saying that, Issei got up from his chair and fixed his gaze on Rias, waiting for an answer. HAA will take care of it, just because you brought me someone very interesting, although it won't happen again. After that confirmation, Issei told Asia to come in and left her alone with Rias. It was up to Rias to convince her to accept her protection by turning her into a daemon. If Asia in a hypothetical case refused, he would ask the student council president for that favor without the condition of turning her into a demon. If she refused, he would take care of protecting her himself. Although he was trusting too much in demons for now, he couldn't do anything about it. He noticed it when he died by that fallen angel. He was still too weak enough to bow his head and trust them, although that it felt really disgusting.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.